meeting tonight. We want to make sure that in compliance with Oregon law, this is not an official meeting of the city council. Okay, we do not have a quorum. We have to make sure that tonight, no decisions are going to be made on the topic that we're going to discuss at the stakeholder meeting. That we are looking for comment regarding our proposal and making sure that we're achieving the goals and we're in the right path of direction that the community has wanted us to go. For those members of the city council who are here, I hate to say this, but this is the one meeting where you don't get to say a single word. Okay, this is listening only.
They can ask a clarifying question.
You can ask a clarifying question, but the most important thing, no discussion amongst yourselves about this or wherever we go. Okay, this is just input gathering. This is being recorded and we are broadcasting on YouTube as if we were. We've got Jane here recording as if it were a real meeting. But for the purposes, and that's just so we're confined with open meeting laws, in case somebody wants to ask us what we're doing or what we did, we've got the recording. Okay. We want to make sure that we're keeping our discussion constructive, focused, and balanced. And that we've got that we're hitting the right notes, as it were. So, purpose tonight is to talk about a proposed camping ordinance. And so before we get to it, for those that are not attendees at our regular meeting, we'd just like some introductions. So we'll start next, we'll start with Sean, Public Works, and we'll go around this way.
I'm Sean Burchett, City Total Public Works Director.
Justin Offmeyer, Executive Director of Total Chamber.
That's our Assistant Public Works Director, City Total.
Chelsea Hollis, Deputy City Recorder.
Jane Christensen, Assistant City Manager.
I already introduced. Ready?
City Planner.
Kenny Moreland, Code Enforcement Officer, Tillamook City Police.
Jennifer Roach, Netherlands. Oh, and another bridge gang too.
We loved it. Thank you.
Terry Phillips, local business owner.
Pat Carter, community person.
Adam,
Adam Nielsen, project manager and city engineer.
we'll ignore the police officers in the back. They're not important to us other than the person.
Oh.
Sorry, you can introduce yourself if you want.
Corey Hollis, Tillamook City Police.
James Harrell, Tillamook City Police.
John?
So, here, resident and so on that.
Okay, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mary.
Can Jill go and have a seat next to Councilor Mottler?
Oh, yeah.
Here, so she can be part of the.
Oh, no, just come on in. Just go on in.
Get comfy.
You're already started in that chair next to you.
Now, are you good, Alan?
I'm good.
Okay.
You have an invited seat at the table, so.
Oh, I'm perfectly fine, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, to start off tonight, we're gonna start with, our code enforcement officer, Kenny, who's gonna give us a brief overview of where we've come from and where we're going. And then, our planner, Megan, is gonna talk about kind of where we're at. And then we'll get into some facilitated discussion. So Kenny, you wanna? Sure.
Thank you for the opportunity for having me to speak this evening. Tonight, I want to briefly outline the purpose, structure, and benefits of the proposed camping regulations and camping removal policy for the city of Tillamook. Why is this needed? Tillamook, like other Oregon cities, is experiencing increased impacts from unmanaged camping in public spaces. These impacts include fire and sanitation hazards, obstruction of sidewalks, right-of-ways, and business accesses, environmental damages, public safety concerns, and strain on enforcement resources. This ordinance is not about criminalizing camping. It is about establishing clear, lawful, and enforceable time, place, and manner rules that protect public health, safety, and the shared use of city spaces, while remaining fully compliant with Oregon revised statutes. What this ordinance does, this ordinance creates a predictable framework for both the public and enforcement by clearly defining camping and camping related activities, eliminating uncertainty, prohibited camping in sensitive and high impact areas, including but not limited to parks and park facilities, public right of ways, downtown parking district, residential zones, and other or areas near schools and environmentally sensitive land. Allowing limited regulated camping only when no shelter is available and only within city designated resting areas. Establishing strict time, place, and manner rules, including overnight use only, daily removal of property, no fires, dumping, generators, or hazardous materials, ADA access protection, and immediate removal authority for public health or safety risks. This ensures public spaces remain usable for everyone, residents, visitors, and businesses alike. How it improves enforcement and community outcomes. From an operational standpoint, this ordinance provides clear enforcement authority, reduces discretionary enforcement and inconsistency, supports voluntary compliance first, allows referrals to services where appropriate, establishes objectives, standards, and withstand legal scrutiny. For the community, it restores confidence that public spaces are safe, accessible, clean, and fairly managed. In closing, this ordinance balances compassion with accountability, rights with responsibilities, and legal compliance with practical enforcement. It gives Tillamook a modern, defensible, and humane framework to manage public camping while protecting the health, safety, and livability of our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kenny. I just wanna add one thing to this. This isn't coming from a vacuum. This is a result of lots of work and effort by our staff. Following comments from you that are here at the table, right? These invited stakeholders, you guys have been vocal in coming out to City Hall and coming to our city council meetings. And we want you to know that we've heard what you had to say and we're being here tonight is the result of that. Okay, maybe.
So I don't know, has anybody had a chance to read over the ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, so, I just wanna preface that this is only going, this doesn't apply to the UGB areas, because general code only applies to city limits. So far, we have run this through legal. And they have come back with their comments and we changed the things that needed to be changed. And it's also in compliance with HB 3115 that talks about safe resting spaces and also the ORS. It's listed in the ordinance. We were very careful because we didn't want a grants pass case to come to Tacoma. So we wrote it with other cities as a reference point as well. And then once legal went through it, we feel like we have a pretty solid plan. And this covers, we have maps in front of you. 1,000-foot school that doesn't need much area to camp, and then with the underlying zones that have residential areas, they can't camp in the residential area. Or the parking district, which is the other one that you have down town. So I don't think you're gonna find any spot on this map where there's camping except for the safe resting spaces that we have. And this applies to anybody that wants to camp. If they're coming into town, they either need to be at a campground or they need to be at a safe resting space. There's no other camping, not on the streets, not in right of ways, it's not in alcoves, nowhere. So hopefully this will help.
No, that's perfect.
Oh, that was.
So hopefully we've met all of the issues that like Pat, you've been talking about with the RVs and your riverfront. Same with John, and with the businesses downtown, people can't be on the sidewalks, all that's gonna go away. So. And then now we have an enforcement policy.
Okay,
Where are the resting areas? Do you have,
so right now, the resting area, is our parking lot right here. Just outside City Hall, and then we have an overflow area that is defined, in the. Muddy Waters parking area behind where Chamber of Commerce is. That this is our first area here. So. Somebody's early. Let's go on. Okay. All right, so now that we've had a chance to, hear kind of the background of it, we're gonna shift from more of a presentation to a discussion. Our goal tonight is to understand concerns, perspectives, and inform our next steps. Again, we're not making decisions. Before anything official can happen, this does have to go before the city council and in a regular publicly noticed meeting. So, this won't be the only time that you have a speech on it. It's more of just a guidepost, are we on the right track? So everybody's had an opportunity to read the ordinance. Or has been trying to, Justin, I know you had a chance to read it. Okay, so. We're gonna start kind of with the bad of it. What aspects of the proposed ordinance raise the greatest concerns?
Maybe it'll
Okay.
push the conversation. So I submitted my three, I kind of have three things, I submitted them to you and Chelsea. I actually appreciate the ordinance, first and foremost, I think, it, like, Kenny said, it accomplishes so much needed, regulation in the city. The only thing I noticed is, I think, which one's first, the general prohibitions. Under. Yeah,
Can you tell us what page you're on, or
page 3.
so under XX.03?
Yeah, so yeah, XX.03, the prohibition. Under camping, it states it must comply with all applicable local and state laws amended under HB 3115. And ORS 1950. And let's do another. Oh, yes, so that says camping on private property requires express permission. So HB 3115 and those ORSs only refer to public property. So, like, while this ordinance needs to comply with those, a private property. And there's already code on private property. So that's 152.030 or 053K. So our current code already reads that you can't be there. I think it's 7 days. And it's already in our code, and so I found it kind of contradictory that we would rely on public camping ordinances for us as for private camping. So I think it just needs to take a look at this, because I don't think those are applicable to specific private.
Okay,
So. I have recommended language of just camping on private property requires the express permission of the property owner and must comply with all applicable local land use, building, health, safety, and nuisance regulations, including limitations set forth in the Tillamook Municipal Code 152.053K. So it's already written there. So
Okay. Thank you.
Next one, so under place restrictions. Just looking at some of the waterways and just kind of the sensitivity of those areas. In reviewing some of the other ordinances that other cities have, I would just recommend setbacks on these prohibited areas. So as a residential zone, I don't have somebody parking necessarily across the street that's on a commercial side. So I have 50 feet within a residential zone. I have a 50-foot buffer on the downtown parking district. And then taking them all off for a couple of them, 250-foot buffer around special areas of flood hazard. and wetlands repairing. And also 250 feet on waterways.
Okay,
So I did change, I did put notes. There's, wording under number, sorry, guys, on page,
this is XX.040.
yeah, XX. Dot 140. Current number 8 says under bridges, on dikes, or levees, or adjacent to waterways. I should place that within 200 feet of waterways. If you're within 200 foot of waterway, you can't be on the levee, you can't be on under a bridge. So, I think just for the intent of environmentally safe. Water protection, everything, just setting about on those would be highly valuable. And then. The last one I'm at is on. Actually, sorry, I'm gonna go backwards, it's on definitions. Or the definition of school. And there is a missing definition of child care center. So, the ordinance. Under that setback. Of 040 says within 1,000 feet of schools or childcare facilities. Childcare facilities is not defined. And then school is defined as an accredited school. But in the state of Oregon, that's an optional thing, and I think for the intent of this. Regulation really being anywhere that kids are being educated or child care. And so we have a lot of private schools, which actually I think identified here, which wouldn't be accredited through the state. They might have, they should have a business license, so like most of these private schools are not gonna have an actual accreditation. Similar, you have no Little Clipper school anymore, but you have one of the Living Water Fellowship up on North Main. So I think just changing the definition to, for the school definition. And to add a child care definition that encompasses the intent of the ordinance. So my wording was, school means any public or private educational institution. Or program providing regular instructional services to students in kindergarten through grade 12. That is lawfully operated within the city and maintains a current business registration or equivalent authorization as required by law. So making, so it's not just a willy-nilly like, oh, I watch kids in my house, but if you're a business that's watching kids or a nonprofit, you should. I think for the intent of this, ordinance should be. Have a setback around you. So. Okay, your mind.
Thank you, Justin. Anybody else have areas of the ordinance that has raised concern?
I'm concerned that the resting area here in the parking lot has no porta potty. And we talk about sanitation in the city designated resting area. And I don't see how you can allow people to come and park there without providing that.
Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
There,
No concerns on the ordinance, so we're gonna have a discussion later about enforcement.
we'll get there.
Okay.
I'm curious, what are the timeframes that you're talking?
Hey,
We're looking at, so if we'll take all your comments tonight. We'll go back to the drawing board and see how those fit in here. Run it by legal again, because we want to make sure we're still compliant. And then once we get a clean draft from legal, we'll bring it to the city council for a public hearing, first reading, second reading. Usually that takes about 30 days, so we're looking.
Do you have a thought though on that? You can come in at a certain time, but you have to leave by a certain time?
Oh, yeah, that's in here, so it's from 9 PM to 7 AM, I need gone by 7 AM and.
Can't come in until 9.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you meant for time that comes on top of time.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay. Joel?
Is, I'm still, listening to it. He's never reading it, but I'm kind of agreeing with the extent and still saying this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any unintended consequences that raise red flags within you?
I think it maintained forward.
Okay.
There's, I think based on the House bill and state law, I think that. Having taken the opportunity to maintain order and provide spaces and, keep our community that we all live in also safe and, like Joel's, situation by her house, I think it's important that we can all live here comfortably and but we also give people that are experiencing houselessness a place to go. And I think that, they have a right to exist. And so having a place for that is important.
So, and I wanna make sure we just clarify on that, Justin, that this is not a houselessness ordinance. This is a camping ordinance, right? This is specifically designed to people bring RVs. We are making no judgment calls as to whether somebody has a place to stay or not.
Sure.
Right? That's the time, place, manner discussion. This is if you meet these conditions, these are the rules that we expect you to live by. Right? And whether you're in your car, whether you're in an RV, whether you're in a tent, whatever that is, however you choose to shelter, quote unquote, that's what we're looking at here. We're not looking at houseless because that triggers a whole nother review of stuff in the state of Oregon. And that we're trying to swim the waters.
So this
very
require
carefully.
me pulling up my RV and.
It could.
Can, so.
It could. This is not limited to just those experiencing houselessness.
It did have a title. I thought after going to that private camping research, it might be prudent to rename it public camping regulations, because private camping regulations are different. So I just.
Okay.
What piece?
The other question I have is, animals supposed to be leashed or trained at all times.
Okay.
It doesn't say anything about a license. If we have to have a license on our dogs,
Mhm.
but it doesn't state that they need to. How do you cover that?
That gets to be a touchy situation. Because we require residents to have licenses, but this could apply to somebody who's not a resident. Who's coming in, so if you're coming in from Portland with your dog. We don't require everybody that steps foot in Tillamook to go get a dog license for their dog that's gonna be here for a couple of days, right?
But if they're staying around,
If you're staying around, yeah.
because I've talked to the people at the Wilmot,
Mhm.
and they had not realized that there was a license, and it's in the contract.
Yes,
They just missed it,
yeah,
and, because they've had problems.
okay. Terry, I wanna come back to your enforcement question.
Oh, well, I was just wondering if we were gonna talk about enforcement.
Now's your time.
I mean, we can have all the ordinances we want, as long as we're going to enforce it, and make it a priority to enforce.
Mhm.
So, that would be my concern, is, I mean, we've got ordinances now that we go to enforce. And I'm just hoping, and it sounds like in this discussion that it is a priority, and there was a lot of thought put into this. And our concerns are taken seriously, so.
Yeah.
That's just my concern, is that we continue with this.
Yeah.
And stay on top of it, we're proactive versus reactive.
There's a lot that goes into that, it's a lot to unpack, Terry, so, one of the things that when I talk to staff about ordinances in our code. We wanna make sure, that three things happen, and I'm gonna ask Kenny to repeat the three things, because he's heard me say this all the time. What are the three things, Kenny?
Remembering the three things.
Okay,
Readable, enforceable, and predictable.
yeah, so when we write code, we wanna make sure it's readable, right? We want very clear standards that somebody with you don't need a master's degree or a law degree to be able to interpret what the words say, right? So we wanna make it readable, right? Predictable, the standard that we apply to that is what would a reasonable, and I'm gonna use that term very loosely, what does a reasonable person expect, right? A reasonable homeowner is gonna expect that somebody's not gonna put an RV out in front of their house for 3 weeks at a time. Is that a fair statement? Yeah, so what is reasonable, right? Okay, what can do? The other thing is the enforceable, which is probably the most important part of this, is when we go to enforce it, and the example that I like to use for these situations, I started out my career as a land use planner. In the first jurisdiction I worked at, we had a whole section in our land use plan on sprinkler head spray patterns. And I looked at my colleagues around the office, and I said, who's enforcing whether the sprinkler head spray pattern is a full circle, a half circle, a rotator? Who's going and checking on that? And even if we are checking on it on new construction, who's checking on it when somebody on a Saturday has run over their sprinkler head with a lawnmower and needs to come back and replace it and doesn't have to come talk to us at all, right? It wasn't enforceable. There's nothing we could do to look at that. It wasn't reasonable, right? Was that just?
I said, or should be.
No, exactly right. Exactly right. And so I lobbied that we should take that out of the code because we weren't enforcing it and it wasn't something that we could actually take action on, right? When we talk about enforcement, one of the things that we have to do is what's reasonable enforcement, right? If I need to be able to send our code enforcement or one of our distinguished officers out and be able to identify the situation and identify, are they breaking the law? Yes or no, right? But if they're breaking the law, here's the evidence that we can turn over to whoever's adjudicating that and be able to say, this is how we do it. We wanna take the gray areas out, we gotta make it. The other thing that comes with enforceable, and Terry, I think this is where you're getting at, is resources, right? If I don't have resources to have a 24-hour police department, I can't enforce things between 2 and 6 AM, right? That are just random things. So I have to make sure that we've got something that our staff has bandwidth to be able to enforce. We don't have bandwidth to enforce sprinkler head spray patterns. So it doesn't make sense for us to have a law against sprinkler head spray patterns if we never are gonna take the time to enforce it. Plus, if we don't enforce something, then we lose our police powers as the city to be able to enforce it. The courts will tell us, well, you've never enforced it on 3,000 other people, why are you picking on this one person, right? So those are the three things that we look for. So I'm gonna ask, in this related thing, was our code readable? Was it easy to understand? Did you say that it was pretty clear what was allowed and what was not? Okay. Was it predictable? Was it, could you follow it and say, yeah, that sounds reasonable to me, why they're looking at that?
So, I read it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No thoughts? Yes, no, shake
No,
your
I
head.
think that the only thing that, I mean, it's kind of Terry's point, I think we'll get that on your next one, possible. I think the only part that, going in track is what the penalty and what the repercussions of violation look like. So just kind of curious on. In here we have things that's, any other provisions which shall constitute public nuisance, and if I'm not mistaken, like you're wrong on this thing. I think to declare a public nuisance, I think you have to go to court. Order for a public nuisance, unless it creates an imminent threat or environmental, so like. Based on our code, so I think we might need to look into that, because I was curious, what wasn't clear to me, I guess, to follow. Was, okay, if I'm camping on the side of the road and I'm in violation, I can get a $250 fine. Which maybe I have money to pay or don't, but what's the. what's the remediation process of me having to move? That didn't seem in here, like clear, like. What can be expected if I was to call and say, hey, there's somebody camping right here. Rather than a $250 ticket that they may or may not pay. What solves the issue? Like, how do I know that that person is not going to be there outside of my house tomorrow? Case point. So that seemed clear to me all, and it seemed like it was almost missing out of here.
Quick question, are we limited to only fines in this case?
From what legal came back, what we have written in place, suggesting for funds. What do you think you can-
I mean, fines. I'm not a certified law enforcement officer, so I don't have arresting authority, and are they creating, or are they breaking any laws? No. An ordinance is a administrative rule. And a law is a law, so. Really, the only things that we have to go on are fines. Unless we create some sort of an ordinance that says, you know, that, yes, this is gonna be punishable by, you know, arresting or, you know, jail time and stuff like that, but I think that goes into a bigger picture, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lewis. You would have that.
I think there's some steps to that. We have the ability to levy fines. And it has to go through the adjudication process. I'm not sure what we can do as far as adding something to a criminal code. That's regulated by the state.
So my question for bringing this up is if somebody violates this. And we issue a $250 ticket tonight, tomorrow night, the next night, the next night, the next night, and they just. They've got $5,000 in camping violations and it isn't changing the pattern of behavior. Then what good is it?
Well, if the rights want to trespassing person from their property, there's also that.
We also have the removal of the campsite. This was a large discussion, because if I remember right, that was really the majority of the objective was to keep people from camping in areas and being able to have the enforceability to remove their stuff. So it is covered in the removal of campsite part of the policy. There are steps that Kenny would have to take, but
Who enforces that removal? What part of the city?
So it's under the city manager and therefore under the code enforcement officer. Is how it's written.
Right, so the city would forcibly come in, pick up their stuff and move it? Is that how that happens?
After a 72-hour person, because we have to keep 72 hours.
Okay.
Clarification on that though, isn't the removal of campsites just talking about city designated resting areas?
That's the only place you can.
That's what I mean.
Yes, yeah,
But what I think the main question I'm hearing is, if it's like across from a warehouse and parked on the street, and you complain about it and they just get a fine.
but that's removable because it's not a campsite, it's not an established campsite, it's.
well, in that case,
It's removable then only after 72 hours.
no, it's removable immediately.
Oh, it,
Because we can say you're not allowed to be here.
Right.
And if they say no. I'm not going anywhere,
that's where I'm,
then what's then what's the next
Our
one?
law enforcement officers. Sergeant.
I'm just trying to help piece this out.
was this change?
They're not committing crime.
Right.
But are they-
It's city ordinance. So it's just like if you get a traffic ticket driving down the road and I write for ticket. It's a violation. It's a violation.
Yeah.
If you refuse to pay, I can't arrest you for it.
But if
The
we,
judge says, okay, you got $5,000 in tickets. I know you can't pay the $5,000, so we're gonna just charge you $1 a month. Because it's paid off.
which is a real example.
So what are we doing? There's nothing we can do. So here's, based on camping, right, it's in place, I mean, if you pull me over and tell me that I need to move my vehicle or my trailer. Or not set up, and I say no. I mean, I could just park anywhere, I mean, I could park in the middle of the street. I mean, what's the,
So the recourse is if you're legally parked. It's not allowed. Okay, not much I can do. If you park in the middle of the street, you're blocking the highway.
what term is legally parked, I guess?
Legally parked is.
Yeah.
People pulling parking spots, people parked on the side of the road to go into businesses and shop and things like that. That's legally parked. Illegally parked is when you're blocking the right of way or something like that, or someone's driveway. And your vehicle can be towed. and you can take it. So,
Illegally parked is in illegally can't. Those are two separate issues.
right. That's anybody driving to, coming into town, parking on the side of the street and the area that's designated for parking. So downtown district, front of the house on the street, that's illegal.
So I come back to this then, if all we're doing is issuing fines and they're not paying the fines, or we're saying you gotta move it and you're saying I'm legally parked. So what can our citizens do?
There's a lot of this stuff outlined in the definitions. When we talk about park, when we talk about what parking means, when we talk about what it means to be. In a vehicle with the intent to be habitating, so a lot of some of these questions are actually answered in the definitions.
Yeah, I realize that, but at the same time, when we get to the end of the ordinance and it says, here is. Uses.
So basically, but this is kind of the needle that we have to thread, right? Because. Mr. Reynolds is a law-abiding citizen. And has a family member come over in an RV and wants to park in front of your house for 3 days. And you are okay with that, right? And they're camping out, you know. I know people whose parents don't have a house, your grandma and grandpa wanna come visit their grandkids and they tour the country in their RV. Right, or they tow their trailer and go wherever they want, that they just bounce around from kid to kid's house. And come around, so they're parked in front of your house for 3 days, that's the desirable, right? And so we have to allow for something like that. But then you have the undesirable, the ones that we hear about from our residents. We have to have that time, place and manner, right? So we have to clearly define. What is the time that you're here, what is the place where you're at, and what is the manner that you're there? Now, if you violate all those things, then we have a way to enforce, right?
The enforcement is only a paid fine,
The-
which I understand as part of the increase.
So it's a paid fine, but then that can escalate, because if you're not in the right spot, then we can say, we're gonna remove you, and we have the removal of a campsite, we can deem that a campsite that's there illegally, and then we can take action under the state of Oregon laws to remediate that.
Meaning that it's an RV and they've been deemed as illegally camping, we've given them 72 hours notice. We can tow them,
Yep.
So you have
and we tow them where?
Public Works.
so you're looking at the ORS, that removal at 195, that 165, like that's the ORS that. You can remove under. I mean, I think, from what I heard, when Megan kind of mentioned earlier, and I think it's my experience with attorneys too, like. I think it might be an interesting question to ask of, you know, attorneys will always recommend that you wrap everything in bubble wrap and. Don't do anything, because sure, that's the least amount of liability you can have. But I think it would be an interesting question of, what is the threshold in which we can enforce and remove, and, you know, I hear all this that, you know, they're not breaking the law. I'm curious what other cities and what legal interpretations might come of that. In regards to how to enforce, how to thread that needle. To maybe push it a little bit more than an attorney recommendation, considering.
Are you willing to pay the attorney's fees when it goes to the Supreme Court?
That's what attorneys for, one's right, one's wrong. I mean, gotta figure one out.
And I agree with Justin. I also have to look at it from the financial position of the city to be able to pay for
I'm
that
not
loss.
asking, so to be clear, I'm not asking to not to break the law.
Yeah.
Or to put something into that, if you enforce it and for us to break the law, that's not what they sign up to do. They have a note to do differently. But I think that there is there's oftentimes area in there where it's like, well, we don't recommend that because. It's just uncharted territory, or based on this case law. You could go this way, because there's case law.
Yeah, I don't have a law degree, so I'm
Me
gonna
neither.
preface
That's
that.
why I said,
Yeah.
get an attorney.
What I can say is that, we routinely push back on the advice of our attorneys, we did so today, and we can verify that. I told our attorneys to do something that they didn't wanna do, for just the reasons that you articulated. But, we were asked, and part of our public comment was to base this on what other cities in Oregon have done. I believe it was Medford that we took a lot of this language from, because the Medford ordinance had been, has gone to the state Supreme Court. And has been adjudicated on that. We know that it's passed the legal test. And so basing this on that gives our officers ability to enforce that we know that they can do. And I hear that we still have work to do, right? But a lot of that is on the back end of the ordinance and making sure we have the steps in place as to what that escalation looks like, and that's what we need to have. Okay.
Sean,
Yes, sir.
can I interject?
Quick.
Okay. So I understand all the hypotheticals, it's good, we need to consider hypotheticals, but the real world reality of going in and enforcing what we're trying to do. You know, public works, we're down there almost every other day. Sometimes we're gone days, but we're actively moving people, and we work with Katie Moreland. And one of the biggest glitches we've had is the definition of camping in defining our ordinance. Most people, when we tell them we gotta go, get a code enforcement officer, they go. So it's very rare we've had someone resist and they have to start getting issued a bunch of fines and kind of progress the legal plan. It just takes bodies downtown, keeping pressure on them. And this is just one more tool in our tool belt to throw out. Very rarely we're gonna call the guys with guns, get people off the streets and deal with it. Most of us handle that article, but Kenny Moore, we just need more of that.
I appreciate that, and again, we're listening, this is not the finished product, right? We're trying to get ideas of what's there and what's not. Because we're running out of time, I wanna make sure that what we have. The outcomes that are the community's looking for, right? Awesome, is written, what outcomes are most important? Is it the enforcement? Is it no more RVs in town at all? Is it? What is it that we're looking for? What are we solving? That this may or may not address.
In our neighborhood, I see there's a couple of, like a van or a motorhome that does come for just 2 or 3 days to visit company, like you say, the grandparents, and my parents used to do that. Is it possible that you could have some kind of a permit? We have to come in and get a permit for a rummage sale. And it would relieve the officers of knowing that this is permitted. And that it is different than just parking in front of somebody's house and staying there.
Okay,
I think you're open Pandora's box at that point, because you're judging or what. Now you don't have an objective criteria. Now you have a subjective criteria, right? So like, what makes, for instance, what makes a relative wanting to camp in front of your house any more desirable than somebody random setting up in front of my house, right? What's the objective criteria for permitting, and then, so say the teardrop trailer wanted to be in front of Joel's house, like, how does the city deny that? Like, it'd be that, I don't know, I would question the.
And maybe what ifs.
Well, I question the activity, right? I mean, Sean's not wrong in that sense of it has to be, enforceable, and I don't know, that's just my opinion on that. It seems to be a That seemed to be an issue.
Other than enforcement, so I wanna acknowledge that we've heard Terry. What else is this missed from?
Anything about cost?
Cost to,
Exactly. To do what?
okay,
We need another officer, are we talking something like that, or budget that will provide space for funds to be used, or need to be towed, or I don't know, but there's gotta be some,
there's always a cost.
there's always a cost.
For copies and leave out parking lot.
Okay. Do you have any feelings? Yeah, I can talk to you. Well,
I'm just, little question, really. So I know like usually like things like that and they accumulate, you lose your license. That could be the same thing in this manner, like after a while, you know, so that could be something maybe that we put in there for consequence. And then also, I know that's kind of silly, but I mean, even for child support not being paid, I don't know if it's whatever, but you also lose your license and you get full time. I'm just saying, like, those could be consequences that be like, hey, I don't wanna be parking and being a nuisance, like, outside someone's home, you know, and constant. And so I don't.
I'm not sure we have the power to do either one of those, because we
Yeah.
don't issue driver's licenses, so we can't take them away.
Okay, is that what
Right.
it crosses? I was
Yeah.
wondering where, like, why
Yeah.
that couldn't be something.
Okay. Is there something critical that we haven't discussed?
I think it's a good start.
Okay,
It's a good wrap.
okay. I just wanna, we have to wrap up, we have to reconfigure the room for our next meeting, but, I wanna thank you all again for coming out and for your comments. This is exactly what we wanted to hear, what we wanted to see. I hope this shows that we are making progress in the city. I know that sometimes government, always, government's a battleship. You know, I can't put the UE out here on Laurel Avenue with government, I have to go clear around the city. And so, just know that we are working and staff is doing the best we can to find a workable solution to this problem. And we will come back and we'll go back and take what we've heard tonight. A lot about the enforcement, the escalated enforcement, a lot about some definitions and such. I don't think there's anything else that I missed in that summary, Chelsea. So, but just again, thank you for your involvement, and for taking the time out of your day to be here to provide us this input. I think it's very, very valuable that we have those who are most affected and have been our loudest critics to have a seat at the table to come in and tell us what we can do better and make sure that we're moving in the right direction.
I'd like to thank the city for doing so much, because I can tell you in our neighborhood, the ones we were seeing already are moving out. So a lot has been done, and even putting this meeting together, I think is great. It gets people thinking about what can we do.
Yes.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, with that, we will close our stakeholder meeting. And